You guys look like... What do they look like, Jimmy?
Dorks. They look like a couple of dorks.
Get those birds! Birds!
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
What? Are you kidding? We got some family here. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You are listening to the In the Mouth of Dorkness podcast, the official podcast of the Alamo Drafthouse, Winchester.
Welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. Joining me is Brian Young.
God, I love being a turtle!
The Turtle Dork.
Hello, everybody.
And I'm your host, Darren Smith.
Warm, warmer, disco.
The Disco Dork. Sometimes I light matches and let them burn down to my fingertips so I can feel something, anything. And welcome to another edition of the It Modcast podcast. It is the D&B show, or the B&D show.
It's the two-seater, man. This is the Disco and Turtle Unfiltered. This is a preview of what the show that we have, another show that we're kind of working on. So here's a little preview for that.
Oh, so I can be off the chain? Or just still on it, loosely hanging by thread?
This is the beta version, so I don't know if we can be completely unfiltered.
Oh, okay. Just semi unfiltered.
Yeah.
This is some shit you can't say. All right. Yeah. So our other dorks are not here, but they'll be back. They'll be joining us. In the meantime, let's go ahead and get into your weekend dork beat.
Yeah, man. It's funny, man. This is like 1 week that I had like a really busy week in dork. So I was able to kind of rent some films on iTunes. So I saw, okay, let me go
So
through
you just
this.
gonna act like the Avengers trailer never came out, huh? You just gonna skip right over it. I like what you're doing. You
why
don't
not?
want to talk about the trailer? Cool,
No,
I got it. I love it.
no.
'Cause, I ain't watching it.
That's what I'm saying. So since you didn't want to see it, I'm not going to sit up here and like...
You know what? You could tell the listeners.
But to see the thing... Okay, let's talk about this real quick. So the Avengers Endgame trailer dropped earlier this week, and this guy over here, Disco, has decided not to watch any footage from the film, which is... whatever. I'm like, let him do his thing. I ain't mad at you, whatever. But the thing about the trailer is they don't give away anything in the trailer. Right. There's no action sequences that you see. Right. It's all mood and character and tone. Right. And it really just kind of leaves us, it follows up where we left our characters from the last film tonally. Right. With all the characters being dusted, and it really just leaves our characters in that state of what's next. Right. But what I like about it is like we're left with the original Avengers and seeing them fractured and broken and how Thanos have left them, and even the performances that we see from these characters, like the way Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow, she gives her line delivery. You can feel the weight and the vulnerability of these characters and how it's affecting them. I don't know, it's just beautiful just to see these characters and their arc over 10 years, and you can feel it just in that trailer, feeling like where we are at this moment with these characters. So it's a beautifully done trailer. It's very quiet, very somber, and I think that they should take that approach if they're going to release another trailer, by not showing too much, so that all the fans could have that experience that you kind of want going into the theater. Right. And I think that would be a lot. I think that would give us a more pleasing experience to go in there not knowing a lot.
And I think that would just add to the... I just think that would just add to the experience of this being the culmination of all of these Avengers movies up until this point, because that'd be unprecedented from a marketing standpoint if they decide to do that for a movie this big.
It is. It is. To have a movie with this type of budget that is this big, and to not really... And Disney said that they are going to approach the marketing for this film differently than they've done any of their other Marvel movies. And I think that's the approach that they're going to take. And that's the approach I'm hoping that they'll take.
That'd be crazy.
Everybody, I mean, this movie made over $2 billion worldwide. So you don't, people are, I mean, Infinity War is the advertisement for Endgame. Yeah. You don't need to sell people on any of the action beats or anything like that. So we don't really need to see any of that. Right. I would just focus on character. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so with that being said, you can just go ahead and watch the trailer.
What happened? I mean, no. Nah. Good to you. We can do it.
So I'm catching up on a lot of the year. We talk about this is list season.
I'm still slacking on you and Brad, man. I gotta give it to you. You might not do a fistful. You might not write your fistful down ahead of time, but you got your list together, man.
I love. I'm not gonna lie. Like, and maybe it's just the infectious nature that Mouth Dork has. It's really made me kind of look forward to this time of year.
This is his favorite time of the year.
Yeah, and for me too, especially with the YouTube page and me doing all my different lists, whether it be top soundtracks, worst movies, best scenes, best trailers, all that stuff. It's really fun putting that stuff together for the YouTube page. So I'm always just kind of like throughout the year, just always kind of ranking all the films that I watch. So with that being said, I'm trying to catch up a lot. So I've been going to iTunes and watching a lot of different films. So I've watched Thunder Road, which I know Brad and Lisa have been talking a lot about.
How was that?
I really enjoyed that film. It's a film I kind of had to watch twice. Great performance. I think what Jim Cummings does in that movie as a performance. And some of the delivery, the character work that he's doing, and just the script itself, how that movie is written, and even the direction. It plays like a stage play, and there's long takes, and just seeing his performance within those long takes is really just kind of something to marvel at. So it's really, really good. He's the type of character that he seems not to be mentally stable. He's not a mentally stable character because of what's going on in his life at the time, dealing with certain things. I don't want to give too much away, but he's dealing with stuff as far as like his mother just passed away. He has a daughter, and
you would say he's emotionally unstable more than mentally?
The way he plays that character,
yeah.
It seems like it's more than just emotional instability.
Yeah.
And even just how other characters react to him.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very sweet story. That it's extremely impactful, especially when you get towards the end of that film. And just I think you appreciate it with the relationship that he has with his daughter. It's a really, really good film. And even the relationship that he has with his partner, he's a police officer, and the relationship that he has with his partner is extremely profound, and especially what that means for his partner. I think his partner's name is Nate. What that means for his character. It's a really, really good film, the more I think about it. So I would just say definitely check that out. But it was one I kind of had to watch again because it was a kind of off-putting just to see how his character was, because I wasn't expecting his character to be that unstable emotionally and mentally, but going back and rewatching it and seeing the nuances of what he's doing, not just in his performance, but how the script is written, is really, really good. Then I saw Support the Girls, which I thought was really, really good. That has Regina Hall. Regina Hall gives a really good performance. Yeah. Basically, it's just a day in the life about her being a manager at this roadside, kind of like a sports bar, kind of like Hooters, yeah. And with these girls that work there. And I think anybody who appreciates having a good manager, if you've ever had a good boss, this is a movie I think that you will really appreciate. Yeah. There's a lot more layers to the film, but I think it's a movie that really is just kind of celebrating what it really means to have that relationship with someone, like a good boss that you can confide in and that you can grow to have a really strong relationship with, even outside of work. Yeah. And I think just having that appreciation for that. Yeah. But yeah, it's a really, really cool film. Hereditary.
Yeah, you finally saw Hereditary.
It's crazy that Brad and Lisa are here because I remember when the movie came out, you guys had an in-depth conversation. I know I had to leave because I didn't see the movie at that time. I had to leave because you guys were going to talk about the ending. And the movie came out now. I don't know if I want to spoil the ending. I probably won't for the podcast. But that ending, I had to sit and think about that for a while. It's a good film. It's a tense film. that movie keeps you wound up, and I don't know if it's a movie I'm gonna go back and watch anytime soon, but the craftsmanship of that movie and how it was directed, and especially how it was acted, specifically by Tony Collette and Alex Wolff, I want to say, Alex Wolff, because I know his brother Nate Wolff, who was in that terrible Death Note movie.
Oh, that's why they're so
they're brothers.
Crap.
But Alex Wolff, from the trailers, I didn't think he was going to have such a huge part in this film.
Yeah.
And technically, it's kind of his movie. To a degree, yeah. It's deep. It's deep where this movie goes, how it builds, and how just the different nuggets that they give you building up to that ending.
Right.
I thought it's just brilliantly done.
Yeah.
But man, that movie, man, it's depressing. It's I don't want to say it's a hard watch, but man,
I think it's a horror movie in the truest sense.
Yeah.
I think it's a horror movie in the truest sense. There are horrible things happening to people, and it's affecting them in ways that are leaving them void inside, feeling horrible and lost, and the things that they try to do to fill that void or to climb out of that darkness that aren't necessarily the right choices, that put them deeper into despair. It's a perfect companion piece to the Babadook and the witch in that, like you said, from the opening of that movie to the end, there is this sense of dread and impending doom that is so palpable. On top of the stuff, then crazy shit starts to happen. On top of that.
And the great thing about the movie is that even with all that being said, I couldn't take my eyes off the film.
Toni Collette, go ahead and talk about her performance.
She's amazing. I mean, just the layers that she has to go through in this film, from the beginning, because the movie opens up with her mother has already passed, so she's already mourning the loss of her mother, and then once we see all the other things that start to happen, and her performance and her reaction to certain things that happens to her and to her family, I mean, it's gut-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching to see that performance. I mean, even just scenes that she has with other people, like there's a scene with her at the dinner table with Alex Wolff, where it feels like the grief that a mother is having, and how she would lash out at her son, but yet also being nurturing towards her son as well.
And it's so uncomfortable. That scene is shot so well because it makes, at the very least, me feel like if I went and was invited to someone else's dinner, and then some real personal shit came up, like super deep and super hard traumatic, and I'm not supposed to be there hearing it. I don't want to be seeing this, because not only the sound, it feels bad. So that's what that scene felt like to me watching it.
It's just, man. Gabriel Byrne.
So good.
Yeah, he's great. It doesn't feel like he has a lot to do in the movie, but him just trying to be a supportive foundation for that family as a father, as a husband, and then also seeing his frustrations and ultimately what ends up happening to him. It's just heartbreaking. It's a heartbreaking film, man, but great performances around.
It's a heartbreak. It's a debut film for Ari Aster.
Yeah,
that's nuts.
Yeah,
to me.
that is crazy.
So good to have come out the gate and having seemingly mastered the craft of portraying human characters going through horror experiences. Top notch, man. So I'm definitely curious as to what is next for the director, the filmmaker.
That's wild. So I saw that. I finished 7 Seconds, which I thought was a Netflix series that also, the ending of that had me feeling really depressed. I'm not going to go too much into that. And I also saw Boy Erased, which was the gay conversion film with Lucas Hedges and Nicole Kidman and Russell Crowe. And I really, really dug that film. If you go on Letterboxd, I gave it about 3.5 stars. It moved me in a lot of different ways. I thought the movie did kind of drag in certain aspects of it, but the performances, I thought the relationship between Lucas Hedges and Nicole Kidman as a mother and son dynamic was the strongest one in the movie. I think it focused on a lot of things, especially with gay conversion and the fact that this is still legal in 36 states, is an atrocity. I think it's just it amazes me that this is still actually a thing in 2018. But to see how this family kind of persevered, not just through going through the gay conversion therapy, but what also Lucas Hedges' character, which his name is losing me right now, went through, certain things that he went through in college that happened to him. Also the relationship with his father, Russell Crowe, as the pastor of this church, and him thinking that he could heal his son from being gay, and also what, not just wanting to do that to just save face for him as a pastor of a church, and the final conversation that he has with his father is just so it's just so good. It's so good, like that final conversation, that basically Russell Crowe's character, he's the one that has to make the change to have a relationship with his son, and him having to coming to terms with the fact that his son is gay, and that this is just not something that he can heal himself from. Like, being gay is who his son is, and that's something that he's going to have to learn, that Russell Crowe's going to have to learn to live with. And it does the same thing that a lot of these stories do at the end, where it gives you kind of like the update as far as where they are now, and you see the real life person.
Oh, is it based on a true story?
Yeah, it's based on a true story, and it's a, you can say that, I don't want to say it was a happy ending, but his parents did come to terms with him being gay, and they had a great relationship after that.
Wow.
And it's a really, really good film.
How's Nicole Kidman?
Awesome.
Because she's got this year. She's got Destroyer, which
she's been having like her own Nicole Assance.
Also Beguiled. She came out this year. The Beguiled, right?
Well, that was last year.
Oh, okay, my bad.
But like the last couple years, like Nicole Kidman has kind of had her own like little renaissance going on. And she's fucking amazing. I mean, and she's Aquaman. She's gonna be in this year.
Oh damn, that's right.
Man, she's on a fucking roll. Like, she is on a roll, and she is all, like I said, that relationship between her and Lucas Hedges is the linchpin to this movie. Is the emotional core to this film, and it's profound, man. Like it's good. It's good. There's a couple scenes in that movie between the two of them that's just really good. So yeah, that's about everything. I did a lot and got a lot more catching up to do. So I know we're supposed to focus on one thing, but I know it's just the two of us. So I figure I just kind of go through all the things I saw this week.
That's cool. We got to pad this shit out with something.
It's all good.
Because my weekend door was dry, except for the very end. It was back end heavy. Yeah, if you follow us on Facebook, you know I had a pretty rough beginning of the week. Because of how my week started, I didn't do a lot of extracurricular stuff, no film watching, up until Thursday? Yeah. When I had tickets to see an advanced screening of Spider-Man Into the Spiderverse.
No spoilers.
I'm not going to give spoilers. All I'm going to say is it's all true, all of it. The Force, the Rotten Tomato score. It's one of those movies that, because I'm not going to spoil it, I'm bursting at the seams to talk about it and gush about it, but I won't rob people of the experience of seeing it for the first time. All I got to say is, it's great film. Not even a great superhero movie, great film.
Yeah, well, the great thing about it is that our review cast will be for that next week.
Yes, and not another Netflix movie. Yes. I'm so glad you didn't understand. Like, this is real tears.
So we'll everybody will be able to gush about this film, hopefully, after I see it.
So it's going to be a love fest next week, and basically is what Brian's saying. So I saw that, and also got an advanced screening of Bumblebee, which, again, I needed the experience of seeing these two films in the theater, and them being fun watches for me because of the week that I was having. It genuinely made everything A-okay. Like, I barely even remember Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday now. But I will say this. I came out of Bumblebee feeling satisfied because of the previous Transformers films, me being a huge fan, I don't think it could be understated how big of a fan of Transformers I am and was as a kid. Transformers, the movie, came out on my birthday back in 1986.
86.
Even before then, Transformers were like the first toys that I would want to collect, and not even understanding what collecting means, but this type of toy, I want all of these. I only wanted Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe. I wanted the jet and aircraft carrier. That was about it. I didn't need Duke and everybody else, but I needed every Transformer.
That's how it was, I think, for all of us. Man. I remember like being in elementary school in the 80s, and we were at recess. Everybody had their Transformer toys, and we would go outside and play with our We wouldn't even play on the monkey bars. We would just take our Optimus Primes and all our toys and learn how to transform them. And just play. Like that was everything. Yeah. Especially for boys back in the 80s. Man.
I remember when the cartoon debuted on TV. I was a kid, and I was going to the youth center on Andrews Air Force Base. So before school, I would go there. The school bus would pick us up from there, take us to school. After school, drop us off at the youth center. I remember being at the youth center and seeing the very first commercial for Transformers saying, "This is coming in 2 weeks or whatever," and being like, "What the hell is that?" And it was Skywarp, the black and purple jet. It was the first thing I remember seeing. And then I actually remember watching the very first episode when I was in Mississippi, and then that first couple of episodes led up. It was almost like a mini-series, sort of, and it led to Optimus and Megatron fighting on the dam, and that's when Optimus turned his hand into the battle axe, the energy axe, and Megatron turned his into the energy, the mace. Yeah. I remember all of that. So Transformers is a huge part of my childhood. Transformers, Godzilla, and Bruce Lee. And so Michael Bay films come out, and they're not what me personally, as a fan who grew up on the Gen 1, they weren't what I was looking for. They wasn't what I was expecting, but it also didn't satisfy me as, hey, here's a live action version of this thing that was so popular in the 80s or when you were a kid, or this thing that meant everything to you. Here's the live action version of that. It wasn't that. It was, well, this thing that you were a fan of in the 80s, here's my take on an action movie based around those figures. And to his credit, if you want to call it, Michael Bay had admitted early on from the beginning that he wasn't a Transformers fan.
Well,
You know, he didn't know anything about them. He just liked to direct action movies.
Exactly.
Right? And so if you're not a Transformers fan, you're not going to be sitting there thinking, okay, I know what this means to him, because you don't know what it feels like. Nah. So you're not going to be thinking, I know how important this is. Let me make Optimus Prime look like Optimus Prime. So he's not going to think that, and because he's not a fan. And he told the studio that. And if the studio cared enough to give the fans a product that resembles something that is so dear to them, then they would have pushed for someone who cares.
Exactly. So, I think they just wanted a Michael Bay Transformers movie. They weren't concerned about making a faithful adaptation of Transformers at that time.
And I know a lot of that comes down to business decisions, like, okay, if we do a faithful translation, or is that going to get our money back? So I know it all, at the end of the day, it always comes down to money, and that's that. But having said that, what Travis Knight has done is, so basically what Paramount has done, they found the antithesis to Michael Bay. Someone who, I don't know anything about Transformers, but I can direct the fuck out of an action scene. They found the antithesis to that. Not someone who can't direct an action scene, but someone who cares. Someone who's like me that grew up with the Transformers. I care about what Optimus Prime looks like realized in live action. And because of that, the opening of this movie is everything I've ever wanted. It's everything I've ever wanted. And for me, that was enough. But then the rest of the movie goes, and I'm enjoying it. So I will say this. I enjoyed the film. If you were skeptical of going into this film because of the last movie, the last film and the rest of the franchise, that's understandable. But this movie, even tonally, it's not Michael Bay. There's no gratuitous ass shots. And granted, I'm not saying this movie is perfect. It does has its own issues. But for me, I didn't feel like that was enough to hinder my enjoyment of seeing my favorite characters represented in a way that is respectful and accurate to, my childhood.
Yeah, and that's what I'm excited to see, because this is something I've been following all year long, and I've always thought, because of just Travis Knight's involvement in the film, that he was going to stay faithful to what the Transformers Gen 1, especially after Comic-Con, hearing that he is a fan and what he was trying to do with this property. And I always thought that this is a great opportunity for them to use Bumblebee as possibly a soft reboot.
Yeah.
And who knows what happens after this film, but from what you're saying, it just seems like they're making all the right steps to take this franchise in a different direction.
Yeah.
So that gets me excited, you know. So I mean, and as long as the movie has like the emotional core, the heart, you know, the humor, and just everything that Travis Knight has brought to the Leica films, then I'm on board. I mean, like I said, the Boy and His Dog story, the Iron Giant, a lot of people comparing it to that. Like, those are things that I'm always receptive to. So if it has those beats, I mean, I'm sold. I mean, I've been sold on it.
It does.
So.
It does have those beats. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has Transformers in it.
Exactly.
That look like Transformers.
Exactly.
And when they fighting, you can tell what's going on.
I know. That's the thing.
Oh my gosh, man.
I'm excited.
I'm looking forward to rewatching that again. But that was my weekend dork, man. You know, I'm looking for what we got coming next week.
Oh goodness, next week is gonna be a busy week. We got, of course, Into the Spiderverse, The Mule. If Beale Street Could Talk, I think it's gonna be a limited release, and one that I'm looking forward to. I already saw at Fantastic Fest, which is The Quake.
The Quake.
Hopefully that'll be in a couple of theaters around in our area. I'm gonna try to catch that again, because right now, the spoiler alert, is in my top 20 of all, for this year.
If it's close to you when it's playing,
check it out.
Go see it.
Check it out.
You might be like, "What, The Quake? What is this? I have seen no advertising." Just go see that movie.
It's really good. Norwegian film, a sequel to a movie called The Wave, which is on Netflix. I believe it's still on Netflix. So anybody listening, if you're into disaster films, check these movies out, because they work perfectly, because they focus on character first, and they continue that in The Quake, and The Quake is awesome. So yeah, it'll be a busy weekend. I'm looking forward to all those films.
Yeah, I thought half of that stuff was coming out this week, but because had I not gone to see the advanced screening of Spider-Man and advanced screening of Bumblebee, I
it's just been Mowgli.
Nice segue. I like what you did there. All right, that's gonna do it for my weekend dork, ladies and gentlemen. When we come back from the break, Brian and I are going to review the Netflix film Mowgli from Andy Serkis, the directorial debut. Is his directorial debut, right?
I think he's directed before.
Okay.
But yeah, Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle.
Legend of the Jungle. So yeah, stay tuned after the break. We'll be talking about that when we get back. All right.
Hey, this is Liz from People I Think Are Cool, a bi-weekly podcast where I interview my favorite creatives from across the globe. If you're looking for a dose of creative inspiration, then go to peopleithinkarecool.com or subscribe to People I Think Are Cool on iTunes and Stitcher.
You like film, from cult to classic, from blockbuster to B-movies. And there just isn't that one place with all the fan fervor and passion that's covering the kind of mad, diverse brilliance that you love.
Well, that's where you're wrong.
AfterMovieDiner.com is that fan-built movie nirvana just for you, featuring the sweet, sweet writings of the wife dork herself. AfterMovieDiner.com. Go there. Be the best you can be.
And we're back, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for our review cast of Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle.
Yes, I believe so. If that's what they say.
This film it's funny because this film was announced right around the time that Jon Favreau's Jungle Book was announced.
Yeah, so Jon Favreau had this movie. So they basically, I think, were in production either around the same time, or Andy Serkis' version was in production when this one was like in post, or when they were marketing for the film. But anyway, either way, we knew that there was going to be 2 Jungle Book movies coming out.
Right.
Disney was the first to the punch, but after that, Warner Brothers had the rights to the story. Now, I think this is a story that is I forget what the term is, but it's open. It's not
public domain.
It's public domain, so it's not specifically like a Disney story.
Right.
So Andy Serkis was looking to do something a little bit different, a little bit darker with the story of the Jungle Book. WB sold the film to Netflix. earlier this year because it was supposed to be released sometime this year by WB.
Yeah.
They sold it to Netflix. Watching the film, not because, me personally, not because of the quality of the movie, but looking at the film now, we're going to get into it. But I think my perception of it is that the reason they sold it to Netflix is because I don't think WB knew how to sell this movie. Because watching this film, this movie is not for kids.
Yeah.
It's not for kids at all.
Yeah.
And WB was like, we're not going to drop a whole bunch of money into P&A, marketing, and this, like, who are we selling this movie to?
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the biggest issues about the film, but I also think that's why it works good for Netflix. Because you don't have to market the film, you're not having families having to go out to go see this movie and pay money. They can go in the comfort of their own home and watch this movie, which I think is actually going to get more people to actually watch this film.
Yeah.
But yeah, with all that being said, that's kind of how this movie got to where it is now.
All right, let's start with the good.
Well, okay, I'm gonna tell you, I give it 3 stars on Netflix, and Netflix, yeah, on Letterboxd.
Okay.
And it's kind of hard for me to talk a little bit about the good without talking a little bit about the bad, because I think the bad was one of the things that kind of distracted me from what I actually enjoyed about the movie, which is the visual effects. We'll get into the visual effects a little bit later, but I like the retelling of this story. I like, because of what we saw in the Jungle Book, and the Jungle Book, you can almost say is almost a direct adaptation of the animated version that Disney did, but they just kind of fleshed it out a little bit more. This one, it still has some of those beats from the Disney version, but it takes everything into a completely different direction as far as the narrative and focusing on Mowgli himself. This is really Mowgli's story, and just how they interpret a lot of the characters that we've come to love. Now, that could be seen as a negative, and it was a little bit off-putting, especially with some of the voice talents, when we see Bagheera and Baloo. Baloo probably more specifically, because I love the Favreau version so much that anytime I see Baloo, I'm thinking of that version with Bill Murray playing Baloo. Even with Ben Kingsley being Bagheera. So when I hear Christian Bale as Bagheera, and I hear Andy Serkis Cockney version of Baloo, it's a little bit off-putting. But then once you kind of get into the tone and what Andy Serkis is going for, it does kind of settle in, and I do start to get a little bit more invested and start to buy into these versions of the characters. There are other characters like Shere Khan, who was played by Benedict Cumberbatch. And it follows, I mean, it kind of follows the same story with Mowgli kind of being this man cub from 2 different worlds and trying to find his place and where he belongs, and not feeling like he fits in. And it's really just kind of like that self-discovery, and I like how all that stuff played out. I like, of course, with Shere Khan and Mowgli, where Shere Khan is the only one that is skeptical about him being part of the jungle. And then also we get a lot more of Kaa. And that's one thing I liked about the film, is how we take all these characters that seemingly just had kind of like these one-off scenes like Kaa, or we kind of see them as like kind of like these stereotypical characters, like just the big bad villain or the mentor or whatever the case may be. We get a little bit more in depth into who they are, into who Bagheera is, his relationship with Mowgli, the conflict that Bagheera has with knowing the older Mowgli gets, he's not going to be able to stay in the jungle. He's going to have to go to the man village. And then Mowgli not wanting to separate himself from that. And even how the narrative of how they play with that, where when he's in the jungle with the animals, he's speaking English, but then when he's in the man village, he doesn't talk. He doesn't speak. So the interpretation of language and how he can't relate to man in the village when he's with them, and how they visualize that. I liked all these different things, but sometimes it's hard because you have that layer of the visual effects that's so distracting that gets in the way. But I don't know, man. Like I took to the retelling of it. I like it taking a different approach to the story. So I don't know, man. Like,
for my good, I didn't have an issue with the retelling. I'm I'm not so beholden to
Yeah,
the original
yeah.
or the Disney version or whatever that if
Yeah.
something different is done with it, I would have an issue with it. So I agree. Like I don't have an issue with the retelling. I think that the what's the kid who plays Mowgli's name? That actor.
Oh, good. I don't know his name, but he's the kid from Bad Words.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I liked him. He's part of the good and the bad. It's weird. Maybe I can explain it better when I talk about the bad.
Okay.
But
He's got the look.
Man, does he? His eyes and his eyes are so big. He looks like a human anime character. His friggin' eyes are so emotive and expressive. Like I said, I'll put a button in that and pick back up when I talk about my bad. But he really does have the look of Mowgli. Christian Bale voices Bagheera.
Yeah.
Another one of my goods is there's a scene between Bagheera and Baloo after Mowgli leaves and gets kicked out of the pack.
Yeah.
That in spite of the shoddy CGI, I really found that scene effective from a character standpoint, at least to flesh out the thoughts and the concerns of those two characters and how
absolutely.
they both care about Mowgli, but they have they come from two different perspectives, two different standpoints. And to see them both go at it and try to argue their points to one another, I really found that scene effective and cool. I really like that. Even though I said my main issues are with the issues are with shoddy CGI. There's a sequence, and this is also my good. There's a sequence that takes place when Mowgli is he's apprehended by the monkeys and he's taken to this underground lair where he's going to Shere Khan's going to confront him. Just that set design, even though it's CGI, that underground, I love the look of that sequence. So good when they're pulling them through there. You see all the different monkeys doing crazy shit in the periphery and stuff like that. I love that sequence. And then Baloo and Bagheera and Cobb join that confrontation. I really enjoy that sequence.
That was a great sequence.
And then there is a moment. Oh, another good is Frida Pinto's. God damn.
She's not in it very much, though.
No, but she looks so good.
She is, man.
So good. I can't look at her for more than 18 seconds. I really can't.
And she needs to do more work.
She does. She's a great actress. She doesn't get nearly enough to do. I thought she was going to have a larger presence in the film.
That's what I thought, too. That's what I thought, too.
But no. But what else? The Benedict...
Shere Khan?
Benedict Cumberbatch is Shere Khan. It's funny, you had that thing where you couldn't not hear Bill Murray when you're watching Baloo.
Yeah.
Now I'm not even like that hard on the Jungle Book. But I can't not hear Idris. I want to hear Idris Elba.
Dude. I'm the same.
If a tiger's gonna talk, he better sound like Luther. Dude, that's all I'm saying.
I'm telling you, that voice cast in the Disney version is so iconic to those characters now.
Yeah.
Like it's like how we say how the Marvel Cinematic Universe always cast perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
That voice acting was just pitch perfect, man. Idris Elba's voice for Shere Khan is, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
It doesn't get any better than that.
And Benedict Cumberbatch is great. He's done voice acting before.
Yeah.
Like his real acting is great. He's great. His voice acting in this film is great, but it's just not interesting.
I know. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
And that's why. And of course, I mean, but that just the choice for Serkis to do the Cockney accent for Baloo was just like, I don't know. It's at first it didn't. Like I said, I got used to it, but it just. I was like, oh man, I don't know about that. It was, I don't know, but
So let me ask you, what do you think about Serkis's directing in this film?
You know what?
Whether it be the action sequences or whether it just be quieter moments.
You can see the passion that he has for this material, and that it's kind of hard to say because I think WB kind of screwed him with this because. They didn't really give him the money, and then what they end up doing by dumping it on Netflix. But I mean, as far as his direction, as far as the storytelling, I thought he did a decent job with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the look of the film.
Yeah.
I think some of the acting from the actor who played Mowgli was a little stilted. I don't know if that had to do with the script, but I mean, even though the story is a different retelling of Jungle Book, I think that the story itself still kind of follows some narrative conventions that we see.
Oh, yeah.
As far as like with the wolf pack and the whole thing about, you know, you have to win the race, and then everything that happens with Aquila.
Oh, yeah.
You know, some of these things we can see kind of happening. Like it doesn't feel like anything new.
Yeah.
So I mean, it felt a little safe narratively, but I think tonally and the things he was trying to do was telling a darker version. Some of that stuff worked, but again, I just don't know who this movie was for.
Yeah.
But speaking on that, I do want to say, even though I don't know who this movie is for, I do like the fact that telling this movie in a darker tone, it really shows the danger
Of being a kid.
in the jungle.
Yeah.
Like these animals, it shows like how feral and dangerous these animals are. Just looking at, even when Baloo and Bagheera are having that argument, and they're like scratching each other, and like even when they rescue him from Shere Khan in that cave, with those monkeys,
they was all beat up.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it shows you just how dangerous the jungle is.
That's the same scene where Shere Khan takes his claw and puts a gash from his shoulder down to his damn elbow.
Exactly.
Of Mowgli. That's nuts.
Yeah, and the fact that Mowgli has grown living in this dangerous environment, I mean, it just, I don't know, I thought that representation of the jungle was really spot on and shown, because the Disney version, you don't see that. It's a Disney movie. Yeah. I mean, we call it like the Disneyfication of cinema, whatever the case is. But Serkis was like,
the truth of the matter is, there's a kid living in the jungle with wild animals. Yeah, and they're wild animals.
And he shows them as wild animals. Yeah, you know, and I like that aspect of it. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty cool. So,
the bad.
Well, we talked about the visual effects, man. Visual effects. I mean,
I said the bad, not the ugly. The bad.
But yeah, that is ugly too. I don't know. I guess that would be part of my bad and ugly. Again, like I said, just some of the stilted acting, and it just distracted me. It just distracted me from what is a kind of an interesting and compelling story. I just couldn't get past a lot of the shortcomings of just how the movie looked. I thought the cinematography was good, but just the visual effects at a lot of points, and I got used to it to a degree, but you could just see that it just felt like they needed either another pass, they needed more time. It's not terrible. It's not like, it doesn't look like video game effects, but it's definitely not like movie production, like cinematic production level of visual effects that you would have seen.
It's not the Disney Jungle Book.
No, it's not like that, and it's a bit distracting for me. I think I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of the human side of the story, because by the time he gets captured or he goes to the man village, we're about an hour into the film, and then they do a lot of how he starts to assimilate into the man village. Is kind of done a lot through montage. Yes, it's really done a lot through montage. And Frida Pinto, we talked about that. I thought that was a shortcoming.
I wonder if in a different cut or edit, if she's in that movie more, because she's in 2 scenes,
I think
maybe
like 2, 3 at the most. And I think she only has like 1 scene that actually has dialogue.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot at all. But yeah, I mean, we start to see him assimilate into the man village, but a lot of it is done through montage. And I don't know. I would have liked to have seen more, because he is a person of two worlds. And I wanted to see how these worlds collide. And we do see that, especially with the elephant and the hunter. But I think that's a little rushed to a degree. Because when that part of the story with the elephants comes in with the hunter, it doesn't feel earned. It feels a little rushed. I get what it was going for, and I do think it works, but it just feels a little rushed to me. So those are about some of my bads, but I don't know.
Since I put a button in it, the young man that plays Mowgli, his acting, I and I said he does have expressive eyes. And he does, but he does this thing, and I don't even know if he's the only person that does this in the movie, but so one of my other pet peeves, so for my new listeners or people who don't know this about me, so there's a certain cinematic pet peeves I had, right?
Uh-oh.
So just to back brief you on it, do a recap. One of them is like at the end of a movie when a layer is crumbling and you have to run out as it's crumbling. Like the main bad guy dies, and because he dies, all of a sudden the roof and everything starts to cave in, and you got to get out in time. I hate that when in movies.
X2.
Dude, I hate that in movies. And another pet peeve of mine is when somebody goes somewhere, like down somewhere, we're not supposed to be, and the doors open, and there's this huge, long, vast room with a bunch of either people on tables, like slabs.
Oh yeah,
or cocoons.
You were talking about that with what's the Michael Bay movie that I like?
The Island?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hate that. I can't tell you why right now. It required too much thought, but just know I hate that in movies, right? So this other cinematic pet peeve I had was one that's in Jungle Book, and I didn't even realize, I didn't even give it a name. I'm appreciative of Mowgli because it has given a name. I've given a name to this thing, and I've dubbed it twitchy acting, right? I can't stand twitchy acting. And I'm gonna have to do this, like I should have done this on a Facebook Live video because I'm gonna show Brian for just so he can have a frame of reference. All right, Brian. So I apologize, podcast. This is bad radio, but I have to explain this to Brian because he's confused right now.
Yeah.
So in a movie where if I'm upset and I go and I go like, so Mowgli would go like this if he's upset. You see how my head twitch and move like what? You saw what I did, right?
Yeah.
This is what I would do if I was upset. Not like twitchy. You know? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand, but I'm trying to remember if he did that in the film.
Every scene where he has to emote serious and think, like his head he'll do like this.
His head was just
the bobble
like a bobble, like a bobblehead.
He would do the George Clooney. He do the George Clooney.
George Clooney.
Yeah, you never saw like the joke when like they mock George Clooney, like say he always like doing his head like a bobblehead thing. Anyway, it's twitchy acting. I can't stand when actors do that, and mostly it's kids, mostly it's child actors that I see do that. Sometimes certain teenagers do it. Matter of fact, Haley Steinfeld does it in Bumblebee. She does it in Bumblebee, and so. The reason why I said a part of the good was also the kids acting is because, like Haley Steinfeld, she doesn't always do that.
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's the kids' fault. I don't feel like it's Haley Steinfeld's fault.
Yeah.
It's the director, in my opinion, to say, okay, can we try it a different way? Can you dial that back or just not use that take?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's on the director, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know, like I can't put that on the kid, but that's in the movie, and I can't stand when people do it. It just takes me out of it so bad because now I'm thinking about the person and their craft instead of the character, right?
Yeah.
So that's like one of my bads. The other is, or maybe I'll just save that for the ugly. Another bad is the hunter thing, right?
Yeah.
So, maybe as I'm talking this through, you can chime in and explain what maybe the intention was. But I felt like the movie sets this guy up. He finds Mowgli, and he first he has him captive in the cage because he's a feral kid. He just found his kid coming out of the jungle, whatever.
Yeah.
So not that I agree with him putting the kid in the cage because at the end of the day, I don't care if he's feral or not. As a kid, and you got him locked up in a damn cage. Anyway, they set him up to be this person that I found you. I'm gonna get you cleaned off, and you can join us in this village and have a good life. They make him like a good guy, but then they kind of shoehorn this turn in there to give the confrontation between he and the elephant, where they do it over him being like this drunken hunter. And I've seen that before where like you have a guy who is presented one way, and then in order to move the story, you make that guy an asshole.
Yeah.
And it just felt like the way that they led up to that and then did that switch or that turn, for me it just felt like that was, I don't know, like I just didn't understand like why they did it that way.
Well, he had his trophy of all his kills. And
that scene right there,
and when Mowgli sees that he killed his little friend,
that scene right there, that's okay. Maybe I'll say that for the ugly too, because god damn, the puppy head on the stick.
Yeah, that shit was wild. So I mean,
that's like the darkest shit in the movie.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I think that's what motivated Mowgli to get, but especially when he saw the trunk the tusk from the elephant. Because the elephants, and even in the Disney version, they're shown as these majestic, like the majestic creatures of the jungle.
Yeah.
That everyone else in the jungle kind of bows down and marvels to.
Yeah.
But Shere Khan is like, basically, he's the big bad, because the movie pits, and every version of the movie pits Shere Khan as the villain.
Yeah.
So at the end, when we have the hunter and the villain, it's about, okay, how are we going to solve, how are we going to take out these two villains?
Yeah.
And I think
But here's the thing, like, if you'd have just made, why couldn't you just leave Shere Khan the villain and have the guy just be a good guy? But you're taking away from Shere Khan, because the Shere Khan's a great villain because of his history with man and how he has a reason to be angry.
Because I think you want to have that moment for when Shere Khan is killed. That has to be Mowgli's moment. So if you have that, then the hunter, then there's really no reason for the hunter to even be in the story.
You said it, not me.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. So because I felt like Shere Khan in this film, my issues with his looks aside, like, I love that moment. I love that line when Mowgli says, "Sleep now, Shere Khan. You no longer have to be angry," or something like that, or rest in peace, not anger, or something like that.
Before he kills him?
No, as he kills him, he stabs him.
Oh, okay. Because Shere Khan takes one more swipe at him.
But that's when he stabs him.
Okay.
Because at first Shere Khan appears to die from his injuries.
Yeah.
He swipes at Mowgli.
Yeah.
Mowgli stabs him, and as the knife is in him, he says, "Sleep, Shere Khan, rest, and no more anger," or something like that.
Yeah.
I like that, because even Mowgli understood that, this motherfucker's trying to kill me, but it's coming from a place of anger, and I know where that place of anger is. It's tied to man, and having been in that trophy room, he understood. So I like it. If you just kept Shere Khan the main bad guy, or if you're gonna have that hunter guy not even try to act like he's a good dude, just let him be the hunter guy or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, because I think one of the reasons he's in there is because you have to get the elephants into the story to help Mowgli defeat Shere Khan.
Yeah.
So, and one of the ways they do that is with the tusk.
Yeah.
And so I think that's one of the reasons why they kind of had to create this whole story with the hunter to bring the elephants into the story to help Mowgli against Shere Khan.
Yeah.
But I think they could have did that in a different way. Or you could have did that without him having to see the trophy room and his friend's severed head.
Dude, when that moment came up, it was almost like a jump scare. Because I'm like, whoa, that's dark as fuck.
Yeah.
All right, so the ugly.
Oh man, the ugly. I don't know, like just the animal designs.
Thank you.
I mean, just the animal. I mean, but
we're gonna share this ugly.
Yeah,
that's my main. They weren't realistic. Like Ka as a snake, your eyes are supposed to be on the side of your head. You having both eyes in the front of your head, to me, it's off-putting. Especially when Andy Serkis' approach is to be more a darker take, and I felt like because the CGI wasn't photorealistic, it lent itself to not even a hyper-realism. It just felt out of place. So on top of it feeling out of place because of the look of the CGI, the design of the snake isn't even close to reality. So it removes itself further from the reality that we can relate to in the film, as far as the look of Mowgli, as far as like the look of the jungle and everything else. Shere Khan's head in certain shots, and a lot of shots, was way too big for his body, first of all.
And I didn't understand why he was walking on the backside of his paw, but then like we would see him running, and it's like, how can you run if your paw is...
And you can't even walk on your paw. I'm not even gonna get into semantics.
I just thought about that. I was like, well, why? And they make a point to show you that his paw is damaged.
Yeah.
But then you see him actually running through, like, chasing people and shit like that. And I'm like, well, what the fuck? Like, I don't get that, but okay.
And then Bagheera, like, just the way he looks.
And they try to make it photorealistic to the actors, because Bagheera looks like Christian Bale.
I don't know if it's a compliment on the FX part or an insult to
goddamn Christian Bale.
I was like, his eyes and almost like his bone structure of his face. I was like, that fucking looks like Christian Bale.
Like a dude turning into a panther in the mid transformation. Like,
I know, right? And
yeah, animals had long faces that were flat instead of snouts that came out.
Yeah.
And something in me, I guess that primitive instinct in me that knows that what a real animal is supposed to look like, a real bear, a real panther, or whatever, a tiger. And these things were not that. They were exaggerated. They had exaggerated features. Again, Ka just didn't look like any snake that I've ever seen. And she's supposed to be a python. I've owned pythons or whatever. Or maybe she's an anaconda. I don't know. But even John Voight saw snakes that didn't look like that. But so yeah, for me, I felt like that's a peculiar design choice. Because even if they had done some more passes on the textures of those characters to make the fur and the lighting look, even if they had done that, they still would have had the same altered bone structure, and it still would have looked extra weird.
Yeah, it would have. It would have. I mean, Baloo, he looked like he got herpes on his face or something. I don't know. That shit look terrible. That shit look bad. Like, he need some Neosporin on that shit or something. I don't know, but I was like, bruh, like, what is wrong? It looked bad, man. I was but I don't know. Like, that's a choice. That's a choice that he made, and I think it was because he wanted.
To differentiate it,
but also, like I was saying earlier, just to show you how dangerous these animals are in the wild. And I mean, some of these animals probably do look like, not look like that in the sense of like looking like the features and stuff, but as far as like
scars,
the scars and how they would act. And I think he was trying to get that across with the design of these characters as well, but. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I'm not hard on this film.
Yeah.
It's I give Andy Serkis credit. I mean, look at my letterbox. I give it 3 stars. I enjoyed the take, but there are some major glaring issues with the film. But it's on Netflix, so it's not like you got to go out and pay money.
Yeah.
So I definitely say if you got time,
it's worth checking out.
Check it out.
You might dig it. Me personally, it felt like it took a long time for me to get through that movie because. Here's the thing, like Brian said, before they even get to the village, you already dropped an hour, or you already dropped 53 minutes into the runtime of the movie. So that means everything leading up to more human interaction is Mowgli constantly and only interacting with CGI characters.
Exactly.
So you're constantly, and if the CGI is bad, then that means every scene you're constantly being distracted by the bad CGI or taken out of the movie. So for me, it made that first 50 minutes seem like forever. Forever.
You're
and
right.
So, I don't know, so again, you might not be that distracted by the CGI, so you might not have that issue. And if you don't have that issue, then I think that all the good that we talked about will shine through even brighter if you're not held back by the CGI.
And again, I think watching on TV, like I said, if I saw this in the theater, I've been pissed. Like, to go out, pay money, and sit in the theater to see this the way that it is now, like, no. Like, I see why WB sold this, because they had to. Because they know, like, because parents would have been pissed. Because you can't take your kid. Like, this is not for kids. Like, kids will be scared by this. And people will be pissed. So there's no way this was ever going to get a theatrical release. But I admire the attempt.
There's stuff to like there. Like there's a moment where I should have had this in my good. I forgot about. There's a moment when Mowgli is in that cage that the hunter puts him in once he stumbles out of the jungle into that village, and in the middle of the night one night Bagheera comes into that cage. And Christian Bale has his monologue about how he used to be in captivity, and I just thought that was great. And granted, Christian Bale still looked like a half transformed Panther Man, but what he was that backstory and that exposition that he gave, that Andy Serkis gave to Bagheera in that scene, I felt was really moving.
It was great. And Mowgli wanting Bagheera to save him, and he knows, like, look, you need to stay here. This is where, like, you can't come back to the jungle. Yeah, I mean, and Christian Bale's a great actor.
Yeah.
So he sells that scene.
Yeah, he does.
There's a lot to like in the movie.
Yeah.
There's definitely a lot to like.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have seen Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle, or if you're going to watch it, or after you watch it, hit us up on social media at ItModcast and let us know what you thought of the film. You can also hit us up and let us know what your week in dork was, what you did, what we should do, what you saw, what we should see. Let's see. Brian Young, what are you looking forward to this week? We talked about a bunch of stuff that's coming out this week.
All the stuff, but of course, Spiderverse. That's the number one I'm looking forward to, man.
I'm looking forward to rewatching that with y'all because I can't wait to just love that film with y'all.
Yeah, man. So I'm chomping at the bit, man. I'm looking forward to the end of this week.
All right, you looking forward to dropping a trailer reaction to Spider-Man at some point?
Yeah, I know it was supposed to come out.
Y'all told me Friday?
This past weekend,
Saturday,
at the Brazil Comic Con.
But they saw it.
They saw it,
yeah,
but they held out on bringing it out online.
But you know what? I respect that.
Which
and being a Comic Con hall agent goer, I respect that.
But I think because there is a Spider-Man movie coming out this weekend,
it kind of has to be in front of that movie.
Yeah,
right?
they're going to release it. Probably Wednesday, Thursday this week, in line with Spiderverse.
Okay.
So we'll probably get that, and of course, this is supposed to be the second trailer. It may have already dropped by the time of this recording for Godzilla.
Oh my God!
King of the Monsters.
Oh my God! We gotta stop right now. Hurry up, wrap this shit up, B. Wrap this shit up.
Oh, I'm good, man.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's me being the Disco Dork. Next time. Sorry, you can find that guy at the Turtle Dork on Twitter, at the Turtle Dork on Instagram, and at Brian William Young on Facebook. I really can't focus right now that you told me that.
Well, it may or may not be out. I don't know yet.
All right, you can follow Sidewalk Siren at Sidewalk Siren on Twitter, at Sidewalk Siren, at Big Dork at Sidewalk Siren and at Big Dork on Twitter and Instagram, and at Sidewalk Siren on Letterboxd. Brad Gullickson is at Mouth Dork on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and Tap. Billy Dass is at WB Dass on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Darren Smith, the Disco Dork on all social medias. I couldn't do it for us. Thank you all for listening. Enjoy every Sunday. Next time.